What's up, everybody? It's your boy Joshua Edwards, live from Brooklyn, New York. This is Panthers Pride Television. Dan Morgan is supposed to be talking today, 1:30 p.m. at the NFL Scouting Combine. Those of you that don't know, Scouting Combine starts Thursday and runs up until March 3rd. A lot of interviews going to be on display. People are going to get talked to. One-on-one conversations with general manager and head coach. I think guys need to go out there and perform during the NFL Scouting Combine. Why else would you be invited? If you're not going to be performing, you don't need to show up for the NFL Scouting Combine. That's just how I view it. That's what I think the NFL needs to start trending towards, just so guys won't be holding out on these workouts and missing time possibly to raise their draft stock. Abdul Carter is not going to be out there performing. Shedeur Sanders is not going to be out there throwing. And there's going to be a couple more guys that are going to come down the pipeline that won't be performing. But in other news, look, yesterday I broke the news that Shaq Thompson will no longer be retained by the Carolina Panthers. And here are just some top young available inside linebacker replacements that are going to be on the free agent market for Shaq Thompson. You guys know how I felt about Dre Greenlaw. Not going to kind of dig too much deep into that. But there are a couple more guys that I really look forward to and what their price is going to be. So the first two is Devin Bush. If you don't know who Devin Bush is, you need to go do your research. He was a guy this past year and actually a guy for the Steelers back in the day. Played for the Browns, ironically, go across division and conference and played your arch rival, but played for the Cleveland Browns this past season. 16 games total, 76 total tackles, 8 tackles for losses, and 3 pass breakups. He is going to be a guy that's not going to command a lot when you're talking free agency money. He's going to be a guy that's going to be available for the lower end. That's the reason why we cut Shaq Thompson, to grab guys like this that are healthy and that are going to be able to play. And the next one, circle this name, Kyzir White. Now, the thing with Kyzir White, he was a safety transition linebacker. You're going to see another guy that was a safety transition linebacker. But Kyzir White, 3 pass breakups, 9 tackles for losses, 137 total tackles, and 17 games played this year. He is going to be a guy that commands really top dollar in free agency. Him, Zach Bond, he is a guy that can do it all. Sideline to sideline, can play in between the tackles, knows how to read a defense, knows how to command a defense. He is going to be a guy that's going to be an unrestricted free agent, barring a franchise tag. I think he is that good. If the Cardinals let him go, if they do not re-sign him or really make it a priority to re-sign him, hell, if they don't franchise tag him, the Carolina Panthers need to come down the pipeline and see what's up with Kyzir White. You know, especially just the history of the linebackers that we have had, the Thomas Davis, the Sam Mills, the Luke Kuechly, John Beeson. He could definitely be one of those guys that is a trendsetter in, just Panther linebacker history, and kind of can really etch his mark and really scratch his name as one of possibly the greats in Carolina history. And then the next two, these 4 guys that I'm talking about currently are all under the age of 29. Now, Jerome Baker would probably be the biggest wild card. He has had an injured-ridden two seasons this year and the year before last. Had 4 pass breakups, 2 tackles for losses, 61 total tackles in 8 games played. Now, Isaiah Simmons, for everything that I just said about Kyzir White, the same thing applies with Isaiah Simmons. Now, Isaiah Simmons had the enjoyment with playing behind a great defensive line. He played behind a Brian Burns, a Leonard Williams, a Dexter Lawrence, and he didn't really get in too much. Only 21 total tackles, 2 pass breakups, 0 tackles for losses, and 17 games played. But he's a guy that's looking to play. For his talent, for where he was drafted, for him running a 4.34 or 4.3 40 in the 40-yard dash, for what he presents, he is a guy that can play, and he can play now, especially in the Carolina Panthers defensive scheme. Like, we need a guy to run with Josie Jules. If we're not going inside linebacker in the top 2 selection, like we just took Trayvon Wallace, he's going to get more playing time. Hell, partner Trayvon Wallace with Isaiah Simmons, another young gun. And he's going to be a guy that's going to be another unrestricted free agent. I don't see a situation where the New York Giants re-sign him to a boatload of money. He's a guy that can fit in that 3-year, $30 million contract, and we can make it work. Like, there's not a situation where he won't be able to play right now in the Carolina Panthers defensive system. And Jerome Baker, like I said, biggest wild card. I believe he is the better of the 4 when you look at those guys, Devin Bush, Kazir White. But the only thing is he just can't stay healthy. So I think he's the biggest wild card. I would look for us to make a huge push towards Isaiah Simmons, a Madden god, and obviously Kazir White. These are my top 2 1 and 2 selections when we are talking just everything, just as far as making a push towards inside linebackers replacing Shaq Thompson. And secondly, Ted McMillan has been linked with us going him in the 8th pick. Pro Football Focus has him going to us with the 8th pick, and Malachi Starks falling with the 58th pick. Now, if you don't know who Ted McMillan is, he is arguably the best prospect. I'm not going to say in the last 2 seasons, but he's definitely the best receiver in this class. Last year, he balled. And then this season, his last season in college football, he was an All-American. Literally the best receiver in football this past season. 12 games played, averaged over 105 yards per game, 109.9 yards per game, 84 receptions this year, had 90 the season before, 1,319 receiving yards, had 1,400 receiving yards the season prior, and 8 total touchdowns. Now, he is a guy that is physically imposing. If you think about the receivers that are great in the NFC South, big body receivers, obviously Mike Evans, Drake London is obviously coming on. And when you think even just years past, Michael Thomas was a big body receiver. If this is what we're looking for, I saw some clips last season on Bryce Young obviously throwing goal balls and playing in a flag football tournament with DK Metcalf. If you're looking for a big body receiver, Ted McMillan is the way to go. I don't like the pick, though. I don't like the pick at 8th. It's just too many holes to fill at the defensive side. If you're telling me you're taking Ted McMillan at the 8th overall selection, one, it tells us as Panther fans that you really believe that this is going to elevate Bryce Young into the top 10 category. If you take Ted McMillan as your 8th overall selection, what you're saying is, I have made enough transactions in free agency defensively to fill the void on the offensive side. Like, this would be a huge upgrade. Don't get me wrong. He's going to be partnered up with Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, Adam Thielen, a day 1 starter. But the thing is, we just have way too many glaring issues at the defensive side. So it's going to be interesting to see Dan Morgan talk to Ted McMillan, Dave Canales to talk to Ted McMillan, hell, David Tepper. You know fans are going to be there in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. It is going to be very interesting to see how this thing plays out. If he tests well, if Ted McMillan runs a 4.3, if he runs a 4.4, damn what I said about Will Johnson. If he runs a 4.4, Ted McMillan is the way to go. So I just look forward to what he's going to present, especially in free agency. Now, David Moore, more problems. So the possible re-signing, hence defense in draft. So, like for everything I just said about Ted McMillan, I think we as fans just got to pump the brakes. Us re-signing David Moore, one, it's not a bad thing. He's a great number 4 receiver. And secondly, that does not indicate that we won't go offense in the draft. That does not indicate that we will not try to help Bryce Young in the draft. I could still see a situation where we trade for what's my guy from John Mechie from the Texans. I can still see a situation where the Panthers try to work something like that out. Us doing that is not, us re-signing David Moore possibly is not and shouldn't be frowned upon. I mean, when you just look at what he presented, it's not a lot. 17 games played, 351 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, 32 receptions, and 20.6 yards per game. I understand it's not a lot. One, he's not a guy that's going to be commanding a lot of money. He's going to be a guy that's great on special teams. And then he's going to be a guy that can spill, some breaks when Adam Thielen needs one, when an Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker needs one. He's not a world beater, but let's not frown upon signing David Moore. And even if we do re-sign him and we do go defense, who's frowning upon that? The worst historical scoring defense of all time was the Carolina Panthers of last season. So, man, we're getting more money. We're letting guys go. We let Ian Thomas go. We're probably going to re-sign Tommy Tremble. We let go of Shaq Thompson. We have cap space, guys. Pump the brakes, man. Us re-signing David Moore should not be frowned upon, especially if we go this monster, or you could call him a monster, the huge, big-body receiver from Arizona.